Welcome to 1407 Gray Malkin Lane. This is the living memory of the X-Men. Today we're having a very special episode. We're having another content creator. Like, you want to introduce yourself, my friend?
Sure. I am DS Pyro. I have Nerds and Food podcast. I've got the DS Pyro TikTok and all that kind of stuff. So I just like creating stuff about nerd stuff from X-Men, which is what we're going to be talking about today. Music, movies, animation, anything that's just going to be pretty much a nerd culture. I enjoy talking about it.
All right, cool. Okay, so I guess my first question is, what got you into the X-Men? Did somebody introduce you to it, or did you stumble upon it? What's your story?
Sure. When it comes to the X-Men, I grew up watching the 90s cartoon on Fox Kids.
Nice.
So that's pretty much like the majority of people my age. That's kind of was my first introduction to X-Men and kind of the whole, at the time, I guess it would have been nerd culture, like for my age. But the Spider-Man cartoons, Batman and Superman, all those kind of cartoons around that time, that's what got me into it. Wolverine was my favorite, as a large portion of people's probably was at that time as well. But that's kind of my main introduction. And then from there, just reading kind of random issues of stuff that you would find at the stores, the libraries and stuff like that.
Okay. When you said, I was just watching X-Men before you got in, and it was the one episode where Wolverine was in the danger room. He was just trying to kill Cyclops over and over.
Everything going on. I remember a good couple years ago, we were at a friend's house, and it was like 2-3 a.m. in the morning, and it was just on TV for some reason. And out of nowhere, they just came back from a mission, and then Wolverine just punched Cyclops in the stomach and told him to shut up. And I was like, that's why you like Wolverine as a kid, because he just did what he wanted, and as a kid, you couldn't do what you wanted.
I know, but like sometimes Wolverine would just do like, what? If it was anybody else, I would have stomped you out.
Yeah, even though he's 5'4", you just kind of stop Wolverine out.
Right? It's like, if you, and plus I always thought, like, if you know his history, you could really just roast him. You could say like, hey, you're the reason why your mom killed herself. You're the reason why Sabretooth wants to beat your ass every year. Like,
yep.
Oh man. I always thought with his mind wipe thing, you would think that he would remember what's going on, because like he got his memories back after House of M, but they didn't do anything with it. So I thought it'd be really interesting to find out Logan was a bad person. Like, he's a Ricky Spanish, like from American Dad. He's just terrible.
Yeah.
So we find out why Sabretooth wants to always attacks him on his birthday. Like, I mean, that's funny. Like, bah! See you next year. Oh, okay. So what are your favorite arcs? Like, when you think of it, when you think of what's your comfort food?
For X-Men, I like reading crossover events, and that's just like my overall kind of intake of comics. So I don't always follow each individual story, and with X-Men in particular, that's really hard to do, because since 1964 or something like that, they've had 63. They've had how many stories just as X-Men? Then you've got everything else. Then you've got the individual characters. Then you've got like Excalibur, New X-Men, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I can't really pick a favorite X-Men story, but one of my favorite crossover events that includes the X-Men is, coincidentally enough, Avengers versus X-Men.
Really? Okay.
Like, it really captures not really, like, there's other stories that do it better, and I admit that. But for me, in terms of how society sees the X-Men and how that relates to like kind of our world, as it were, and how the oppressed people are seen. One of the panels that I remember the whole time is that when Scott says, I believe it's in this one anyway, like, it's great about the Avengers and everything, but the X-Men are chased through the streets with pitchforks and torches and stuff like that. And that really brought home like the differences, because the X-Men and the Avengers are at the core superheroes doing the same thing. Yeah. The X-Men, because they're mutants, because they're genetically different, are treated as subpar, whereas the Avengers are like, yes, they have their issues, but are treated as the saviors, as it were. And the X-Men are not. They're just treated as your mutants, so you don't deserve the same praise we give other people, even though you do the same thing free of charge, basically. They don't get any praise or statues or anything of that manner, whereas the Avengers do. And I think Avengers versus X-Men kind of really captures that. And AVX, the subseries as well, kind of dives into like these kind of the characters themselves in a bigger plot. And I really enjoyed that.
Okay, cool. I always thought the X-Men, like, the X-Men to me, I always thought they were an allegory for Black people. I thought they were, I always thought that. Like superheroes, like as a community, they were the minority, and then you got the mutants, and that were just hated just for nothing. And that's always how I saw it. And in the last couple of years, they've been saying like, okay, it's not so much that anymore. It's more inclusivity, and like, oh, okay, like, but this still works though, right? Like,
I think when it comes to the X-Men, I think you probably notice it more as a Black person, specifically if you're in America or even to a degree in the UK, because I was born in America. Mm-hmm. So that was my initial introduction to the X-Men over there. So seeing that story being played on TV and kind of realizing, oh, okay, these are the different people. They're treated this way. And if you realize that, X-Men holds a bigger impact on you, or at least for me, it did. So definitely, their origin is very much an allegory for the Black experience in America. And then definitely over the past, I want to say 10 years, 15 years, it's become more overt in terms of just oppression and inclusivity and things of that manner, definitely. But it's still, its core, as far as I'm concerned, will always be to the Black oppressed people, and then now it's growing further and wider, which is perfectly fair. It makes perfect sense for it to kind of grow with the times.
Right. I also with Charles and Magneto, a lot of people have like I remember, I'm sure you do as well. Back when the show was going, everybody was like comparing them to Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, and that kind of really stuck. And I talked to new fans, they say I don't acknowledge that. It's way too simplistic. I'm like, it make it like Magneto makes sense as Malcolm X.
I mean, they are clear, as far as I'm concerned, representations of those characters. And I'm pretty sure Stanley has stated a number of times that's the influence, the civil rights movements, MLK, Malcolm X. Those are the influence for those specific characters and their mannerisms and the reasons behind why they fight. You can hear Malcolm X when you hear Magneto speak. You can hear MLK when Xavier speaks. Like, their whole approaches are clearly mannerisms of those two famous people. So to kind of say that's not the case, or even to say that's simple, it is simple. That's the point. It's not meant to be complicated. For that point, it's not meant to be complicated. The X-Men themselves, for me, are not meant to be complicated. They are that allegory that's very clear cut and dry. That's what it is. The growth of that. Now, if you look at the X-Men now, yes, they have kind of lost that to a degree in terms of its overtness, because it's become more super than it had been previously. But again, that's just growth with times. Everything is destined to change, basically.
Right. So how do you, like, you mentioned Krakoa. How do you feel about Krakoa right now? Like the current era, because I love it. I love the fact that if you're I'm a history buff. So what they did with Krakoa, that's basically Israel. That's basically how they created, like, they created their own country, and then they had wars, all like the 6-Day War, where they had, they beat each and every one of them. I'm like, no one's making this connection. Like,
so I think any allegory or similarity to real life is always great. Even if we look past the X-Men, when you look at any type of superhero story or any comic book story or whatever it is, you look at Star Wars, you can see similarities to real life. I think that's always important because it's, for some people, easier to digest and some people to kind of realize oh snap, this is what's going on in the real world. If you have this much in the real world, and then you have this in the comic you can say, oh, I really understand why this is going on.
Right.
So like when you have people like Cyclops, when you have him going on like being this more radical in line with Magneto type event, you can realize how some people from America and how some people from the Middle East, Israel, whatever that the country is, the origin, how they can go from being not necessarily a peace-loving person, but being on one side to the other, as it were. So I think comics can help, or just any form of media, to be fair, but in this case, comics and specifically the X-Men, can show how you'll be on one side and something will click or trigger you to say, you know what, actually, this isn't working out for me. I need to do the other side, or I need to go extreme of what I'm doing and then become the Magneto. And Cyclops is right, Magneto is right type of events.
Yeah. I am like, and I'm glad you brought up Magneto. When I was a kid, I used to think Xavier was the right way. Like, you know, like the only way to make this work is to work together, you know, like, but then you start seeing things happen. You see the storylines that you see in the books. You saw Fatal Attractions where Magneto ripped Wolverine's skeleton out. You saw Operation Zero Tolerance where the government really put in witch hunts. They were hunting them down. That was crazy.
And the purifiers and I think, and again, bringing it back to real life as X-Men has always done, I feel you need both. I really think you need, for one, in real life, you need both, because you need to remind people that we are willing to fight for stuff. And then on the other side, you need to understand that we're a peaceful set of people. Like both of those together, it's the yin yang effect. That's really what it boils down to. You need to have that balance. So when you're looking at X-Men, you need to have it for a good storytelling point. If you have everything just the same and this one type of progression or this one type of attack or offense rather, it gets boring. So you need to shake it up a little bit. So when you're looking at, again, the core mannerisms, you've got X-Men, sorry, not X-Men, you've got you've got X-Men, the Brotherhood of Mutants. You've got Malcolm X, you've got MLK. If you just have Magneto all day in terms of storytelling, it's like, that's really cool and that's great because you're going to get a lot of action. But where's the discourse that can teach people how to talk about the issues? And that's a great way where the X-Men come in. It's like, I'm working so hard, I'm not getting any love for this, but I'm still doing it because I care about these people, even though they hate me. And I think that's a really good lesson. But the other part of that lesson is also, I need to be able to defend myself. And if I need to, have an offense that is useful. And I think those are really great lessons that the correct, I think, is probably the best X-Men books that can teach you, because some of them are just fun and fantastical, and that's okay. But when it comes to my enjoyment for the X-Men, that's what I'm looking for.
Right. Okay. So what is your favorite team? Like what team would you be like, man, I wanted to be on that team? Like they had, you know.
So I am a big Deadpool fan.
Oh, okay.
So any team that Deadpool's on, I'm gonna really want to be a part of, just to be there for the hijinks that's gonna go on. So I think, like, I believe Excalibur, he was on there for a moment. I think that's really cool, and the dynamic that Cable and him have, I'm a big fan of that. Like from beginning to end, like from the first time that they were together up until even recently, I'm just, that dynamic is one of the best buddy cop type events that I've ever occurred in my life, at least in terms of comics.
Right.
So Excalibur would be great, but also just the 90s X-Men would be really cool, because that's what I grew up on, like seeing that, and just the environment that they were in. It felt familiar because obviously I grew up with it. But I think if I really had to go down and really pick, I'd probably pick X-Men Evolution. It's a classic cartoon.
Oh yeah, underrated. Totally underrated.
I think underrated, because I think underrated is thrown around a lot. I think people often compare it to the 90s cartoon. And when they look at it, like, no, it's not as good. And I can appreciate that. I think there are aspects of the 90s ones that are better and aspects of Evolution that are better.
Oh yeah.
I think people didn't like the adjustments to the characters in Evolution, where they were kids, and it's like, well, 90s, they were this. It's like, it's a different environment. They're in a school.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably why I would love Evolution's environment, because like being in school, like you had to really have a care or whatever, but you'd have superpowers in theory.
Right.
So I think that's what draws me more to Evolution, and Rogue is amazing. So
yeah, it was cool.
I'd be down with that. So I think Evolution overall. Go on.
Yeah. Oh, like I'm glad you mentioned Rogue, because like Rogue's evolution has been such a huge, like it's so vast.
She's been everywhere,
right? Like we've seen her playful, we've seen her dark, we've seen her really dark.
Yeah,
and it works.
Yeah, I think Rogue is one of those few characters that is the heel and the face and everything in between, and it just feels natural.
Yeah,
you have certain characters where it's like really like having a dark Xavier wouldn't make sense, so they have to have Onslaught.
Yeah,
so like you can have she's in a very unique place to, like you said, she can be the playful Southern Belle, but then on this other part she can be like a Dark Phoenix type character, and it would still make sense.
Right.
And I really appreciate what a large portion of the writers have done with her, and it's worked. And you, like, for instance, you've got Evolution Rogue, where she's this kind of young, slightly shy, aggressive kid. But then you've got X-Men 90s cartoon, when she's the Southern Belle, super strong, ready. She's already taken Miss Marvel's powers.
Right.
So
and she's ready to just do anything. Like, oh, you want to punch a take? All right, I'm doing it.
Yeah. And it's wonderful. I think, again, she's in a very unique and wonderful place where you can do, she's similar to Deadpool, I guess, to a degree, and She-Hulk as well, where you can write a story with her and her personality will always work with what you decide to do, unless you're talking about the movies.
Oh, okay. Those movies, all right. At the time,
I love the movies.
Like, the movies were great. The movies were great. And like, I mean, I just thought like we could have done so much more. Like nobody could have told them anything. All right. I really thought they could have done like a Lord of the Rings X-Men movie. Like 3 movies, cut it in half, one team and another team, and we just back and forth.
When you look at it in hindsight, yeah, that probably would have been great. But at that time, even though Marvel had no input, it's still a Marvel property. So you just had Blade and The Matrix that came out.
Yeah.
Those are big influences in terms of cinema.
Yeah.
So at the time it was like, well, we can't really do superheroes in tight spandex, and they made a reference to that when they were in the ship.
Yep.
And it's like I was like, yeah, but that's what we want. Like as a kid anyway, maybe as an adult at that time.
It's silly. It's ridiculous.
Well, I get it. I did like the references to the light blue or the yellow that they had on the leather. That was cool. But so the influences of cinema at the time said, you know what? We can't wear yellow and blue and red and whatever, and that's cool. And now we're getting that because of those movies originally, like X-Men, Spider-Man, Blade. Those movies paved the way for now.
Yeah.
And I very much appreciate that. But the characterizations of the characters, didn't always go well. Like Logan or Wolverine as a character, I think he was done justice.
Yeah.
Not always physically accurate in terms of height and whatever, but you know what? You got to let something slide.
Right.
And no one could ever deny that Hugh Jackman has now embodied that character. When you think Wolverine, rarely do people now think of the cartoon or even the comic. They think Hugh Jackman, and justifiably so.
Yeah.
But Rogue was not Rogue. The only thing that she had to a degree was the accent a little bit.
Kind of.
But and like, you know what? Okay, it's not going to be perfect. I get it. But Rogue, out of any character in those original movies, just felt underwhelming for what you were used to from the 90s cartoon Evolution and the comics.
Yeah.
It was just like, this isn't what I signed up for. I enjoyed what they did as a movie, but in terms of a character adaptation, it was just like, what is this?
Yeah. I always thought those movies were like, they were era specific. Like I always thought like the first 2, maybe 3 X-Men movies, they were really good adaptations of the Claremont era. Like you know, you didn't have to read a lot of Claremont, but you like they had everything.
It was
there.
definitely allegory based. It was very in your face about these are the oppressed.
Right. And so I don't know. I think X2 is probably the best one they did. We can say that.
In terms of just a movie you're watching, it's a great story.
Yeah, it is. X3
and that opening with Nightcrawler as well.
Oh yeah, classic. But X3, a lot of people like to give it a lot of trash it, but there were good parts in it. There were a lot of
good parts in it. Definitely good parts in it. Like, I think because I, as a younger kid watching the movie, enjoyed it as a movie.
Yeah.
But I know there was a lot of issues with it. And when they were adapting the Phoenix story, I was like, okay, cool, this is going to be interesting. And I was the person that watched a lot with the commentary as well. I've seen that movie a lot. I've seen it with the commentary a lot. I fell asleep to, that was one of the movies I fell asleep to back in the day. Hey. So it's in there. And listening to the commentary, they said what they wanted to do and what they couldn't do. And they didn't really want to do the whole in space thing. And for that movie universe, it makes sense.
Right.
And for movies of that time of the superhero genre, no one was going to space. Even though Spider-Man 3 did it, but that was after X3. Yeah. And we know how Spider-Man 3 happened. So
no, also you're thinking about Fantastic Four.
And Fantastic Four as well. It didn't, the space superhero movies weren't hitting that well.
Right.
So I think what they did as a movie, if you negate like the source material, it was good. It kind of felt like it was split in half. Like a part of it was the Dark Phoenix and the part was the Cure. And they didn't really mesh well together.
Yeah.
And I think that was the problem. They had the two stories that were A and B stories, and they really couldn't go anywhere with it. It felt really like they had two scripts and they just said, let's go together.
They sandwiched them together like, here you go. Hey, I get it because like Bryan Singer had just left to do Superman, and they're like, we have two scripts, let's just put them together. What? Nobody's gonna notice.
Yeah, no one at all is gonna notice. And the younger audience, myself for that, was like, oh, this is a cool movie. And but in the back of my mind, as someone who analyzes things, I'm like, something's off and I don't know what it is. And now as you watch more, he's like, yeah, that's clearly what it was. There's an issue in terms of studio, the scripting, and it just was, when you look at it, it's a letdown. But the best thing from that movie, well, it's one of the best things from that movie, is the Juggernaut. And that one moment, we got that one moment, and it was all forgiven for that one moment. And it's wonderful. Yeah, like I truly love that, because when I watched it, I was like, wait, hold on, did they? Okay, all right, I support this, babe.
Hey, that meme was hilarious. It still is. Do you ever watch it? You ever go back and be like, this is still
it's still great. The fact is how great it is that when I'm still playing video games with my friends right now, I still tell people to comb their beard. So tell them that, like, oh, you can't hurt me with my Jamaican colors on. And like, it's just, there's so many sound bites that are in that first one and the second part as well that are just endearing. It's because it's now what, 10 plus years that's been on there?
15
years. So when YouTube was young, so
it was small.
So, exactly, it had just grown. It started to crawl around a little bit at that moment. That's like when I first had my YouTube account. So like things like that, when they have those little Easter eggs, are what made that movie good. Those little moments, like when she's running away from Juggernaut and makes him run into the wall. That's really cool.
Yeah.
But overall, it felt like it could have been more. They picked it back up with like First Class, even though First Class as a movie truly annoyed me.
Yeah.
Sorry, not as a movie, as an adaptation. Because when I saw the characters, like, oh, Havoc. Wait, they brought Havoc? That's wonderful. Hold on. Why is he the older brother? Why is he swinging his shoulders around to shoot out? Okay, why is Darwin dead? What? Okay. And it's just, there's a lot of character stuff that I don't like about that movie. But as a movie by itself, again, it's a very enjoyable movie and a great reboot or soft reboot to the franchise, even though it messes up the timeline heavily.
Really? Just,
but still as a movie enjoyable.
Yeah, I always thought the team was really kind of messed up. Like Banshee, I was like, oh, I was okay. Banshee, I'm okay with. Who Havoc? You could have changed. You could have thrown him out. Beast.
I know why they brought Havoc in terms of like storytelling and like a connection for the audience that isn't Magneto and Charles, but I think it was still more for, if you're a comic book person, you would know who that is, and that's the point of it. But a normal moviegoer won't care about that. So if you just brought in another character, that'd be great. Because First Class is meant to be Beast, is meant to be Jean Grey, is meant to be Cyclops, and these characters, Wolverine's not even there till later.
Yeah.
So you didn't need him in that movie. I appreciate the cameo. That was wonderful. But all the characters there just felt really out of place. And obviously it's not their story, because that was meant to be what, Magneto Origins, that movie, I believe, was meant to be that.
Yeah.
And then it got changed to First Class because of Wolverine Origins. And
first 20 minutes of that movie was great. The first 20 minutes.
That was that attack on the office.
Yeah.
And then when and Wade Wilson comes out and says people are dead, wonderful. Loved all of that. And the fight at the end with Barakapool was great.
Right.
Not accurate, but it was great. And I thoroughly enjoyed that scene with him and Sabretooth. Again, as a movie, it was enjoyable. But when you, as a fan, as I've said, of Deadpool, from the 90s cartoon to Marvel Ultimate Alliance, those games, and everything in between that, and you hear, oh snap, Ryan Reynolds is going to be Wade Wilson, and you've just watched Blade, Trinity, and you've watched Just Friends, pretty much any Ryan Reynolds movie, because he's always Ryan Reynolds.
He was hitting in those 2000s though. He had hits, so like he was coming out with a bunch of stuff.
He was doing everything, and I'm like, yeah, I like this. And you open up the first part of that movie, and you see him in the black and red and sleeveless. He's like, let's do this, and it's perfect. And then they make a joke about sewing his mouth shut, and I'm like, I see what you did. When are we gonna get to the good stuff? And the good stuff never happens. And he has blades growing out of his arms. I'm like, I don't want to watch Mortal Kombat right now. I don't want to do that. But it is what happens. It's what happens, and you know what? We have fun with it now with Deadpool 2, having a lot of fun with that. So it's just, again, the adaptations in these X-Men movies are not always great, but the movies themselves have great moments.
Right, absolutely. Like with Wolverine Origins, I think my favorite part was when Wade was making fun, was just messing with Sabretooth, and he was like,
that elevator scene is great.
He was just messing with him.
Yeah, like it's wonderful. I think as well when with movies like Days of Future Past. Now, when I saw the trailers for that, I was like, hold on, what's Kitty Pryde doing? This isn't. No, sorry, not Kitty Pryde. What? Yeah, Kitty Pryde. What is she doing? Why is this going on? Why is she giving him powers? That wasn't okay. Why is he going back? You've got Kitty Pryde. Just send Kitty Pryde back. But as we know, the X-Men movies are really just Wolverine movies.
Yeah.
At the core of it.
Yeah, yeah.
So I accepted it. I appreciate the adaptation because it makes more sense cinematically in that world for Wolverine to be the one that goes back, and the age and all of it works. Yeah. But I would like a more faithful story to Days of Future Past, which I think we can get further down the line.
Yeah. Because
they redid Dark Phoenix probably even worse than they did it first, maybe.
I haven't even seen all that movie yet. I haven't seen that complete movie yet. I just I heard everything about it. I was like, nope.
So okay. The way that I okay, all right. Let me rethink about how I thought about the movie when I first heard about it, when they said they're doing Dark Phoenix. I thought, okay, you did this back in what, 2003?
2006.
2006. Okay, and it didn't go too well because that movie just was a lot of things like we discussed.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to try it again? Okay, you tried it with the First Class people and that, and X-Men Apocalypse and Days of Future Past. Those are good characters. I appreciate that. You've got the younger audience, whatever. The opening made sense. They were in space. Cool. I appreciate that. And then after that, it just felt like they hooked onto a little bit of the Dark Phoenix story, saying, "Oh, it's from outer space and it's been watching you because you're an interesting person," or something along those lines. I can't remember, but similar to the comic book type story. Right. Okay, but then after that, it fell flat. It just felt really weak. And have you seen, how much of the movie have you seen?
I saw up to like when Jean went to Magneto, and he was like, "No, I'm not gonna do anything for. I'm not gonna. You're asking me for permission, and I'm not gonna give you permission." At that little commune.
Okay.
Yeah. So, no, not a commune.
When she's talking about why it's called the X-Men.
Yeah.
That scene was so unnecessary. Not the scene, the comment that she makes is like, "Well, why is it called X-Men?" Is like, well, to be perfectly honest, it's obvious why it's called X-Men, because of Xavier, and that's what it is. I get why it's put in there, but it felt unnecessary for Mystique's character to latch into that at that moment. Right. For that Mystique, it didn't really make sense. Yeah. But overall, the movie, like the last half an hour of the movie, amazing.
Yeah. Really? Okay. All right. I'm gonna have to.
Last half hour. Skip everything else. The last half of the movie, amazing.
Okay.
But yeah, everything else, it just felt like they said, "You know what? Let's do Dark Phoenix again," and it was literally beat point for beat point, the same as X3. Yeah. That's what when I watched it, was like, so you've recycled trash, literally, and not in the good way. They didn't make better tires from old tires. They made them really bad. Yes. And it just didn't feel good. But that last half hour, again, wonderful.
All right. Yeah, see, once again, those third movies, there's always that little bits and pieces. Little bits.
The only third movie that did better is Logan.
Yeah.
That's the only one that is out of the X trilogies, the X-Men trilogies. That's the only third movie, because Days of Future Past is the best one. Mm-hmm. X2 is the best one. True. The Wolverine wasn't a bad movie. It was a definite improvement, but Logan is the best one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Just it's not even because of Logan either. It's because of X-23. Like you're like,
was it Daphne Keane? She is wonderful. And side note, I've been watching, I had watched his Dark Materials. Mm-hmm. What if you haven't watched that? Great. She is wonderful. It's a great TV show.
They're bringing her back. I guarantee Marvel's already called her.
I'd be so surprised.
It's like, because she's young enough that she can grow into the character. Like it's not.
Her acting skills as well, bro. Like they need, if they choose to go the route of Laura Kinney, like properly as well. Like they don't need to go too deep into it, but they can definitely allude to things that would have happened in between that time with her job roles, as it were. Yeah. Would be amazing to kind of show that kind of darker side, like how they did with Logan. Having that kind of darker side would be great.
Yeah, it'd be. But I always thought the X-Men do better as a TV show. You know, the first season you can do the original class and just do a loose associate. Like you don't have to, like you do a Juggernaut story. You do all the fun stuff.
Similar to Evolution.
Yeah. Like I think with those 5 original X-Men, and you were to show Juggernaut, you can show how scared they are because they don't know what it is. Like this big thing's coming at us. We don't know what it is. Apparently the professor knows him.
Like, is that your brother?
Like, okay, right. We're not brothers, okay?
He's adopted.
Yeah. His dad married my mom, okay? It was a gold digger situation.
I think there are certain, I wouldn't do the classic X-Men in that essence as a TV show. I think things like New Mutants would work well. The lesser known characters. Yeah. Like the New Mutants movie was, again, had good parts, but overall, as just a movie, was done so poorly as a movie by itself. And I appreciate there was a lot going around that. Yeah. But even as an adaptation, it wasn't good. I very much appreciate the direction that it went in, making kind of more horror. Yeah. That was nice. And there was nice parts of the movie, but it fell flat on its face for me.
Yeah, same here. Like I have it and I like, it's like, this would have been an amazing TV show. Like Start off with Charles from Days of Future Past, back in the 70s. He's kind of getting off the drugs, but he's not there yet. And Moira comes to him. Also, I hate Moira because she's been gaslighting him this entire even before the House of X stuff. Before remember the cartoon where Xavier was on
the island.
Yeah, on the island. He went to the island. He talked to her, and she was talking to Banshee, saying I think I'm his only friend because he's a weirdo. She called him a weirdo.
Yeah, I hear that. I think he's a good character, and I think she's interesting for him for a lot of reasons, and definitely in the cartoon it was different. I appreciate their relationship in the movies because it's very estranged.
Yeah.
And again, the timeline is so messed up that their relationship doesn't make sense in X3 if you watch the other movies, because she's still really young.
Yeah.
In X3 in comparison to Xavier anyway.
Yeah.
Even though she's not there a lot, it's just so how did this happen? What the timeline's just all messed up in the X-Men movies anyway.
Oh man, I just feel like with X-Men there's so many relationship issues that you don't need to do the superhero stuff. Just have them deal with all their drama with each other.
To be fair, that's very Marvel anyway, so it still works.
Yeah. So everybody gets on Cyclops saying he cheated on Jean. I would love to see a situation where he goes really? You're talking about me? Oh, this little troll, this little degenerate motherfucker has been hitting on my wife for ever, and you all knew, and you didn't. Nobody would say, "Hey, Sky, you better watch him. Watch the troll, okay? He's going after the girl."
Watch the 5-foot guy,
right? Storm was gonna jump in and be like, "I know you ain't talking. You can't even get the Morlocks get together, okay?"
It's you have a king, okay? Your husband is a king. What are you doing? You are a goddess. Do something.
You left them in the sewers. You didn't start an outreach program. You're like, peace.
It's true. I definitely agree. There's so many different X-Men teams.
Yeah.
And X-Men characters that can create a really great show. There was there was one on FX or Hulu or whatever.
Legion.
No, not Legion. That's the one on FX. I watched it on Disney Plus, and it was a family one. Runaways. Is it? No, not Runaways. Not Runaways. It was the other one.
Cloak and Dagger.
No, that one's a good one. Because they were in Runaways as well for 2 episodes, and that was terrible. But there's a dad, and his 2 kids are mutants.
Oh, The Gifted.
The Gifted.
Yeah.
That was a really good show because it alluded heavily to the X-Men movies because it's very loosely connected. But they mentioned Charles and the X-Men and the main team a lot and how they set them up, and they're basically a New Mutants-esque type team in that world. And I enjoyed the characters, and again, that show of if you're a mutant, you're oppressed, and how the father had to deal with the fact that his 2 kids were mutants,
right?
And how because he was a prosecutor for mutants, and now his kids are mutants. He's like, oh snap, what do I do? And that journey that they go on was interesting in a way. Yeah, just if you haven't seen it.
Oh no, I've seen it. It's great. I just thought that it would have been interesting if they would have gone introduced Genosha, just that. Yeah. That. All right, no one would be doing that. And Genosha there's so much there. You can talk about and we all know that it's an apartheid analogy, but the fact that how would Genosha be seen to the rest of the world? Hey, you have mutant slaves. No, we don't.
You've got that, and then you've got I think they can with a TV show you can do so much. When you look at a TV show say Smallville, that was. It's called a Superman show, but it's really just a Superboy show.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. So if you have a show like Smallville, but make it X-Men based, a mutant based in that world, you don't need to have the main X-Men in there. You can have cameos for characters.
Yeah.
Because for the longest time, they had the Flash cameo, they had the Aquaman cameo, they had Cyborg cameos and stuff like that. Create this world where it's, again, Evolution is a great package for that because Gambit wasn't in there. He was only in what the third season, I think, or the fourth one maybe.
Yeah, second,
just
third
randomly
season.
there. I was like, oh, he's here, and then like doing a show like that, live action wise, where you have these characters, but you make references to that wider world, and you have it is in a school environment. You have it as that. It's like, why are the teachers like Wolverine and stuff never there? Because they're always out doing stuff. If you have it in the mansion, you're great. You have the established like, okay, this character is going to be there at some point or another, and it's wonderful.
Right. It's like X-Men's great. I always thought like there's so much they can do. Like I always thought Marvel could take some stories, don't have to take the big stories, and just make them animated like DC does. Like, just you don't need to advertise them to the mainstream. Just do it for the fans. Like the fans will appreciate it. They'd be like, okay, this X-Men movie kind of sucks, but they gave us Fall of the Mutants, the animated movie, so I'm okay.
God Saves as well.
Yeah. Oh, pardon?
I think it's God Saves or
Man Kills.
Yeah, that one would be good.
Yeah,
because like you said, DC, when it comes to their animated movies, they blow it out the water every time. I can't remember the last time I've seen a poor DC animated movie like since they've started this new animated universe type thing. It's been wonderful. Whereas Marvel, because they have set areas, like the cinematic universe is kind of this family-friendly area. Their animated movies and TV shows are definitely aimed at a younger audience. And the comics kind of fluctuate depending on what you're reading. Whereas DC are just like, we're going to bring this movie out, who watches it, it's going to be good. And that is wonderful. And that's why people often say DC do a better job. You know what? I can't argue with that. I think Marvel, for me, need to incorporate exactly as you said, those smaller, or even like this, any story in an animated world would be great. Because what was it? Black Widow and Punisher Confidential. Amazing. Now, don't get me wrong, a large portion of that is down to the animators. I think it was Bones that did that. But regardless, if they had more movies that were just kind of standalone, based on really interesting stories, whether it's X-Men or whatever, be great.
Yeah, honestly, to me, I would love to see them do the Phalanx Covenant. That'd be so fun to do.
I remember you saying,
yeah, because like what you said with Gifted, these are the lesser known mutants. The Phalanx took out the X-Men early, so they weren't even thinking about X-Force, Excalibur, and X Factor. I would love to see those. I want to see those characters. Like I'm a big fan.
Sorry, I said Excalibur earlier. X-Force with Deadpool. I apologize.
No. I got it. I understood it. I got you. Like, all right. I love and hate Deadpool. Like because it's kind of like these characters. It's like them like real people. Like like everybody, Deadpool's like, man, Deadpool ain't shit. Like, I knew like it's always been this way.
Yeah, like I think as a long-term fan of Deadpool and just overall as being a nerd from before it was quote unquote cool to be a nerd, it's very interesting because I've liked him before people knew who Deadpool was in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
Like anything at all. Like, oh, Deadpool, like, oh, who's that? Oh, he's with Cable. Oh, he's the one that looks like Spider-Man. Yeah, he's the one that looks like Spider-Man. And you know what? I get it because his outfit and so on is based on Spider. I very much appreciate it. Like I've got and Spawn, and you've got Deathstroke as well. Those three characters, I appreciate it. Like, I get it. Like because I've got Deadpool earrings. People are like, oh, is that Spider-Man? Like, it's not, but I get it. Cool. So when he came out, when he was gonna be in Origins, it was like, oh, all right, dope, we're gonna get that, and it wasn't. I was like, fair enough. And when the movie was coming out, when they announced it, and you saw that clip of them on the highway, that leak that happened.
Yeah.
I was like, are we gonna get this finally? And then it came out, and then everyone was like, oh, Deadpool's a movie. Like, you guys are so annoying right now because you weren't there for the struggle. You didn't wait 10 years for this movie to come out.
It's like him talking to the he's been doing that for years. I remember it was annoying. He was like, I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to somebody else.
Yeah, it's great. And I like, sorry, I think this is kind of important as well. the thoughts on Deadpool in the MCU for you.
Yeah.
And I realize I'm now going into my hosting mode.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, go for it, bro.
For Deadpool in the MCU, what do you think that's going to be like? What would you say are like the ideas you've got for that?
I think just have them come up, but then have them do censor beeps, like, you know, what the beep, what is it, like, just have them acknowledge, like, great, now I can't say anything now, and then
yeah,
I don't know, like, he goes into another dimension or something, or he finds like a device that allows him to curse and do all the gross stuff.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Just something, like, make it so like Disney and him are just constantly just like bashing, butting heads.
Definitely, I think that's an interesting concept, that like he clearly goes to another area and swears away, and it comes back and he feels better. And what I realized, a lot of people are, oh, it's going to be terrible. It's not going to be a good movie anymore. It's going to be like, no, you can do anything with Deadpool. Yeah. He is that character. If there's anything that you can do, it's Deadpool is going to be able to do it.
Absolutely.
And if you've seen, have you seen the episode of Spider-Man when Deadpool's in that episode?
Yeah, I saw that.
That is the prime example of how to do a good family-friendly Deadpool.
Right.
And with the way that the MCU is going, it's becoming a bit more lenient with its language and with the action that they show. So you don't need to show Deadpool actually ending anything.
No.
And even in Deadpool movies, they show him that he moves away the camera when he's about to do something really bad. So it's not to say that in his own movies, he doesn't do it. So it still works. It's still funny because it's within everything is within Deadpool's character, right? Because he does everything. So when people say, oh, it's not going to be good, they're going to make it PG-12, like, okay, but were you watching the MCU movies and not enjoying them? So even if they did do that to him, which they will not be, I highly doubt they're going to change it. There's so much money in the R-rated movie because it was the highest rated R-rated movie until Joker.
Yep.
So why would they try and change that to upset more people than they would probably gain?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Like, I always thought that with Deadpool, just like, Marvel makes good movies regardless. Like, they're cinematic, and I think now we live in an era where, like, we see something, we have an instant we have that knee-jerk reaction. We don't want to give it a chance.
Yeah.
This is why I always thought that Marvel, don't say anything. Like, film the movie, don't say what it is. Like, just and then like on a random Thursday at like 3:40, you just like
get that trailer.
Like, here's that Namor trailer, and just walk away. just walk.
And this may sound slightly insensitive considering everything, but when it comes to the Black Panther movie, I was so interested in that because it would have been a great introduction for Namor or Dr. Doom.
Oh yeah.
And absolutely. Now with the passing of Chadwick, you can still do it.
Yeah.
But it feels very different because it's not T'Challa.
Yeah.
And those stories rely heavily on it. Yes, you can change it to another character and adapt that story, but they're so tied into T'Challa with the Dr. Doom character and specifically Namor. They have issues with each other. So that would have been really interesting to see. Sadly, you can't have that anymore. And that was one of the things I was thinking about when he passes, like, okay, what are we going to do going forward with his character? Because you have to respect the character.
Right.
Like, on a social level, Black Panther in what was the year? 2018? 19?
18.
2018, Black Panther as a movie did great numbers. The highest grossing MCU movie. And I think it might be of all time. I think it's top 10, maybe. I think
it's in the top 5. I think like it's up there.
Yeah, and then on a social level, for specifically Black people, that was fantastic.
Yeah,
I can't remember the last time I saw groups of Black people go to the movie theater, repeatedly paying to see a movie.
I like how you say paying. No, I think of another one for Get Out.
Yes, that is true. People want to go see Get Out.
But same summer too. It came at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Like, to be fair, people went out to go see Get Out, but the vibe was different because obviously Get Out was basically a horror movie, horror thriller type movie. Thriller horror, I guess is probably more accurate. But
racial horror.
Racial horror. Racial is always going to be horror for Black.
Oh, hey, that I thought Peele created a new genre. Like, oh my, we're gonna see more of this. We're gonna see what's it like for a white girl to go to a black family's house and how scary that is. Or
I mean, you've got Guess Who, which is basically that. And that's a very Bernie Mac wonderful. That's all of that movie is wonderful for me. But I think when Black Panther happened, it created a whole movement. I think is probably the most accurate thing I can think of. Get Out had a lot of people going out to go see that movie repeatedly, but Black Panther it wasn't just a movie. Get Out was a movie and it happened. They're like, oh, that's interesting. But with Black Panther, you had kids saying that one is me, and it was a black superhero that they were looking at.
Right.
And I don't think I've ever seen that before in my life.
No.
Where you had, at least where the cast was black, or you had this kid saying, oh, I like Green Lantern, after watching Justice League Unlimited.
Right.
Because it was the only black guy you saw.
Right.
So that's the one that you visually saw. But when it came to Black Panther, you had people dressing up.
Right.
Forget Out, you couldn't dress up because it was just wearing normal clothes.
Right.
People were wearing a lot more African garb.
Right.
And that was interesting to see because a lot of time African garb gets shunned. It's like, no, I'm not wearing that. Right. I don't really want to wear dashiki or anything or things of that manner. And it's changed recently, don't get me wrong, but it's still in the big picture. With Black Panther, it showed how Africa as the representation could have been so different if things in the last 200, 100, 300 years and prior didn't happen.
Right.
And that is something that was very interesting to see. Is the movie perfect? No. But did it have a great impact and was it an enjoyable movie? Yes. Absolutely. And more of that is wonderful.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Being a fan of a fan of nerddom being black is really kind of tricky because like we both grew up watching the X-Men. There were no black men on the X-Men. None.
On the team, and then you had that one guy, Bishop, who in the TV show was like, all right.
Yeah, it was like reminds me of one of my cousins. But all right, whatever. I'm with it.
I think the closest you had was like Forge was probably the closest you had.
Yeah, it's like my older brother told me like Gambit's just light. He ain't white. He's just light skinned. All right, just think about it. He has black.
He's a little spicy,
right? Just think about it. He tried to get at the thick white girl. He don't really trust him.
He's a thief. You know, he's there. Yeah, he's Cajun. So there's a little something gumbo there going on. Yeah, you have to make the excuses just so you can claim one.
Right. Like I have a friend who thought Rogue was black. I'm like, Rogue is from Mississippi. She from like dirt. She from the mud.
She's Southern Belle Mud, Mississippi.
Right. Like she loves Dolly Parton, and that's a religion to her. Hey. But also, Rogue, I feel, likes trap music. Just saying. Hey, I'm just saying.
She sits there listening to classic T.I.
Right? Oh, no, she loves Future.
Modern trap. Okay.
No, just Southern. Like she's a fan of Southern rap.
Oh, she's just a fan of the Southern trap. I can see it. See it. I think Cyclops, like on his headphones, he'll be walking, listening to it. But when someone comes up, he's like, "Nah, I'm just listening to someone else." But he's secretly listening to Future and all those people as well.
No, honestly, I think he was listening to J. Cole.
Definitely.
Yeah, he would let. Gene and Storm. I think they
listen to Gladys Knight.
It's like sing it, Gene.
No, I think like those characters for me, like they are some of my favorite characters in any type of media.
Right.
But I appreciate that is definitely largely down to nostalgia.
Yeah.
They've changed over the years, some of them better or worse, but at the end of the day, they're what I grew up with, and they are a large portion of why I'm a nerd today.
Right.
Because I think without that kind of I wouldn't be as attached to it. Because yes, I loved watching Beetleborgs and Power Rangers and Batman, Superman, all those kind of things, because it was animated. That's what I was into as a kid. But the X-Men, they are the ones that made me go, oh, this is familiar. I like this.
Right. Just like, oh, also, I think Emma Frost would be a big Cardi B fan. But so would Storm. But they don't like each other. But they love Cardi B. They think WAP is.
I think Storm likes Megan Thee Stallion and Emma loves Cardi. I think that's what it is.
Like
that makes more sense.
Also, Savage. They all look like. I don't know. I think Storm and Emma are the same like they're the same person, only just slight differences because they both have trash tendencies. Sometimes.
Definitely. I think when you look at it, 80 Storm is probably a big fan of like the Sex Pistols, like when she got the mohawk. She's definitely a fan of all that punk rock music of that time.
Also NWA.
Oh yeah, for sure.
NWA, like she's like.
I think all of X-Men are a fan of NWA.
Yeah,
everyone. They're just a fan, just there, but only for that one moment. The moment after that moment is done, they're like, no, we're not doing this again.
I think they were, but then they heard Kitty Pryde sing "Fuck the Police." They're like, no, you ain't.
No, we can't do this. No. You're not allowed to listen to this.
Too many N-words in there for you, okay? It's like you're like
where's
of all,
Bishop?
Right? Like no, this is before Bishop. No, just like because you see him got like Kitty has a tendency of dropping N-bombs, like just like I'm sorry, there's no way to say like whoa, all right. Calm down, all right. You like go over there.
Sit in the corner.
Like
don't phase through.
It's like ridiculous. Like can't believe that. Like
good music though.
Right, yeah, great music. That's not the point.
No, I think like it's very interesting thinking about what they would listen to because you know what Wolverine is into, and he'll listen to anything because he's been around for so long. He's like, I've heard it. Yeah. You think that's original? Nah, it's not original. I've heard it before. Yeah.
And that's what you tell, like, man, shut up. Like, this is
old
why no one
head.
likes to drive with you, okay? Not only do you stink up the car, you start criticizing everybody's music. Yeah, can I just...
Someone listen to NPR.
They're like, this is why nobody likes you. This is why your enemy kind of have points. Omega Red kind of has a point. You're kind of a jerk.
I think the reasons why people don't like Wolverine are always justified.
Yeah.
Because he's always done something, or it's that he's a smelly short guy, and they have their reasons. But you still, to this day, he hasn't gone down in my rankings. I just know I like other characters more than Wolverine, but Wolverine will always be my top 5 for me, no matter what. He's just always classic. He's just there. He's that guy that's just always been there.
Like with Wolverine lately, like I look at him through his villains. If you X-Force, the way they were just kind of like, all right, they jumped Omega Red for no reason, and they were. I mean,
he's Russian, so at that time it was the very reasonable thing to do.
Yeah, no, but
I'm not saying it's right.
But like, I'm like I was like, you know what? If I was on Krakoa, I would have been friends with Omega Red. I was like, you know what? Fuck Wolverine, that little troll, him and his family. Like, no. Like,
There's definitely a few set of people who I know, like, I wouldn't want to hang out with you. Like, I'd definitely hang out with Kitty because she's chill. I'd hang out with like Cyclops, like to get some knowledge, like to just like that kind of like, okay, cool. But the person I'm hanging out with the most out of all of them, it's probably going to be Bobby.
Really?
Yeah, because Bobby's chill, and excuse the pun because I don't mean it literally, but like he's a chill dude. He just wants to get on with his life and just chill out, and that's all he wants to do, and crack jokes. He plays video games, and I'm a fan of that.
All right.
So that's what I'm gonna do.
And the stories, though, like he can tell you, it's like, man, first time I was here, I was like 18 years old. I didn't know what this was.
It's like, he'd have great stories to tell. And when I think it was Emma Frost, when Emma Frost took over his body and started using his full set of powers,
right,
bro, we needed that. We need that Iceman back.
We kind of did though. like in the Chuck Austin run, we saw Bobby using his powers a little bit more
True.
differently. On the Mike Carey run, he was able to turn off North Star. Like
true.
So like they're like also him and Cannonball are like the gruesome twosome. I love them together. They're like, you know, they're that 1-2 punch. You put him with anybody, it works. But like Iceman, he is. I always feel like there's so much there that you can make him like a goofy character, but just like show why he's so goofy. Like maybe he's trying to. Well, actually, it kind of makes sense now. He was covering up something, but like show that like he's a lot deeper than a lot of people give him credit for. He's a lot knowledgeable. I mean, he can change the entire world easily.
I think a lot of people who don't, if you don't know that Iceman is an Omega level mutant, you don't recognize the power of Iceman.
Right.
And that's the surface level type stuff. So I think when people think, okay, look at these top level characters, you look at the X-Men, your large portion of just wide audience are going to be, oh yeah, Wolverine, Xavier, blah, 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 like Iceman. They're like, really, Iceman? Like, listen, he isn't just turning things to ice. He works on a thermal level.
So deep. It's so deep.
And the way he uses, like, I remember someone was talking, I think this was on Instagram, they were talking about who would win between Elsa and Iceman. I'm like, and at this time, I hadn't seen Frozen 2. Right. I hadn't seen it. And I was like, okay, cool. You know what? Elsa's pretty powerful. I won't lie. She is powerful. But she's not a fighter. Like, at the core of it, she does not have that fighting acumen. Does she do fighting in Frozen? Yeah. Does she do it in Frozen 2? After I've seen it? Yeah. But I looked at both of them like, her powers are great, but she's not an Iceman though.
Right.
Like, and anyways, for me, on any way, shape, or form, you can make an argument and say, yeah, but she can do this, yeah, but Iceman. Like, that's all I need to say.
Elsa can't turn to ice. Like, you know, you can, Iceman can just like shoot like an ice spear at her and just take her out. Whereas like if she were to do the same, he like, okay, I'm not dead yet.
Yeah. My argument was he can literally shut her down.
Right.
She can attack him, great.
Sure.
But he can shut her down as a human being. He can withstand much colder temperatures than Elsa.
Right.
Like, the cold will bother her. Like, that's what it will be. Like,
he's great. Like, I love Iceman.
He's one of my favorite like characters all the same anyway. Like, for even outside of X-Men, because he's wonderful. Like, in any way you look at it, he's a great and interesting character.
Like I think I really appreciated him during Operation Zero Tolerance, where he was the leader, and I thought, oh wow, this is like they're gonna do stuff with him more. And when they didn't, I was like, okay, this is consistent with the character, because he doesn't really want to be like in the forefront. Like, he's the jokester, he's the like.
He's the lighthearted one in comparison to the rest.
Yeah, but I would like to see him be like the big brother to like these new X-Men. Like, he was always the young, like, he's like, hey, like, all right, when Cannonball joined the X-Men after Age of Apocalypse, he kind of became the rookie, and Iceman took on everything. Like, hey, I used to be the rookie. Hang out with me, I'll show you some stuff. And then they eventually become going undercover for Graydon Creed's presidential campaign. That was weird.
Has always interested me as a character, because when I found out about Graydon Creed, whenever that was, I was like, wait, hold on. You mean to tell me that Mystique and Sabretooth have a kid, right? Which would, if they followed like the normal genetics of the mutants of that, he would possibly be a shape-shifting Wolverine, basically.
Yeah. He would have been remember No More Humans with yeah, he would have been.
What is it? William? I'm gonna call him William.
Yeah, William. Ray?
It might not be, but that's what I'm calling him. But James. William. His name is James. I think it is James.
James? Okay, all right, James.
James. Whatever. I know who you're talking about. It's the blonde one, right? That's
no, not him. I mean, he was blue, and he basically looked like Wolverine, but with Mystique's coloring, like blue and then the red hair. It was from. Oh man, I think
I feel like I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, like
in my head, I see it, but
it was. Wait, he was in Battle of the Atom. He was part of that that Brotherhood group.
Okay.
But yeah, but I just think that
but then you ended up with Graydon Creed. I'm like, wait, you hate mutants and you this scrawny looking dude who why? But the thing is, if Mystique was my mom and Sabretooth my dad and I got nothing, I think I'd probably hate mutants as well.
Hey, I understand why Nightcrawler hates his mom. It totally makes sense.
Abandonment issues are real.
Right. Like, also, like, really? The fact that Mystique, she loves Rogue. Anytime Mystique shows that she loves somebody, it just shows how much of a horrible person she is.
Yeah.
It's like, didn't you throw your kid off the bed? Hey, I didn't want him. Like,
yeah.
And this is why I think that this Destiny should be brought back. Absolutely. Like, have her get back with Mystique, have a beautiful moment, and then have somebody Spartan kick him right into the pit. Like,
no, I agree. I think there's a lot of untapped potential in certain characters for the X-Men and the overall universe. And I really feel that I don't think it can capture, at least for me, capture that kind of X-Men 90s vibe or even the movies vibe that I had, because there's so many stories that have already been told, and it's going to be hard to recapture that core feeling that I had when I originally started seeing, which, to be fair, is the same. You can never catch that first feeling again.
No, you can't.
But I need to reread and go through some of the stuff, like, because I really enjoy Avengers vs. X-Men, like I said, but I need to read other stories that are really good, because I read a lot of single one-shot issues, as opposed to big crossovers within the X-Men. Like House of M is truly wonderful.
Yeah.
But it's more of an Avengers story than it is an X-Men story in my head. Because it spends a lot of time with Scarlet Witch, who's an Avenger, and she's also a mutant, not an X-Men. That kind of thing. So, go on.
I blame the Avengers for what happened in House of M. All of it.
I mean, yes.
All right, hear me out. When she joined the Avengers, Avengers have this kind of like this bubble. This they don't really deal with real problems. Like, everybody loves them. And that created a disconnect between Wanda and the mutant community.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, her brother, he joined X Factor. He was in it.
But he had a better relationship with Magneto as well.
Yeah, but he was on X Factor even without Magneto. So, like, he would just Wanda, she's never left. She's like that kid who never left home and doesn't have any real experiences. And then she ended up marrying. Okay, also, the Avengers promote a lot of goofy behavior. It's like, hey, I'm going to marry Vision. Oh, we're going to have children. Wait a second.
The frat house.
Right. It's like, Vision's a robot. He can't give you.
Comic book's gonna comic book.
yeah, but even then, they even said he can't give you kids. And then she has kids, and they're both like human looking. Like, okay. Yep, this is one. Like, she changed her entire narrative to fit what she wanted. I'm like, wow, that is some real Karen energy. No, I love Wanda though.
Wanda as a character has gone through a lot, and I think her Karen energy is very understandable. Right. I think that's one of the few times I'm like, you know what, it's okay.
Well, I was like, hey, it took me a long time to like. I was like, oh, Wanda's horrible, but like, you think a little bit like, yeah, it's the Avengers. Fuck all of them. Like, I always thought the Avengers were kind of like a country club. They have a bunch of they say they're all inclusive. They say they love everybody, but they only brought in mutants who weren't full X-Men, or mutants who didn't like the fact that they were mutants.
I think the most prominent X-Men they've got in there is Wolverine.
Yeah.
And as much of an X-Men he's always a lone wolf.
Right.
So he's able to be there. And again, you see that very much in Avengers versus X-Men. As much as a story as it is about versus, you learn a lot about the characters.
Right.
In that, I think if you want to know about the characters in that, without any sort of bias towards anyone, you learn like Captain America, two stories I would always advise reading to people who don't like Captain America is Avengers versus X-Men and Civil War.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Civil War.
Because for me, as an American, I was not the biggest fan of Captain America because of like, he's this patriotic guy, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, he's cool, but he does this and like, whatever. I read Civil War and I was like, you know what? I like Captain America. I don't rep hard for him unless people are talking crap about him. Because I'm like, hold on, let's talk about this. He's just a guy who's on steroids. I get it.
Right.
But
so
what exactly at the core of it. But what he represents, people are like, he's this in like America. And I'm like, okay. He grew up in the 1940s. Mm-hmm. He represents an America ideal, not the American government.
Right.
And when you explain that to people, they realize more of, actually, you know what? Captain America is not that bad. I don't like him, but when you look at it and explain, like, look, he's the ideal of America wants to be that help. What America says it is,
right,
is what he is.
Right.
And that's when you realize that, actually, he fights for that little person on the street. He fights for the oppressed people. And people don't realize that's what Captain America represents. He doesn't represent the nation that a lot of people in the world don't like. Right. That kind of thing. When you break it down like that, people appreciate him. And I think Civil War, and even though he's on the wrong side in Avengers versus X-Men, you see why he does what he does, and it makes a lot of sense.
Oh yeah, absolutely. With I always thought, actually, all right. Disclaimer: I'm a third generation X-Men fan, and my uncles got me into it, and they brought up like no one would ever believe a black man is that patriotic. This is why the only reason why Captain America couldn't be black. I mean, back then, and granted, this is like 2000s. I'm like, you know what?
I have many things to say. I have many things to say. But I agree. I completely understand the argument. I very much appreciate it. But when you look at that, it's, and what I love, side note, I really appreciated Falcon and the Winter Soldier for bringing that topic up. It was fantastic. I was sat hugging my pillow on the couch when they first showed Isaiah. I was like, hold on, are they really? And I felt let down that they didn't do the full thing, right, and like kind of a flashback. But the fact that they brought that character in and had that discussion as a soldier, just as a pure soldier, and how that worked and how they brought in real life events, which is what Isaiah in the comics are based on, and bringing that into that TV show was just truly wonderful. And I was like, I completely understand this. And I was thinking, like, how many people are seeing this scene and not understanding the full impact in terms of just real world stuff and in the comics. And for them to do that, I think was great.
I loved it too. I like Isaiah Bradley's, he's such an interesting character, but I didn't like the fact that Marvel, okay, two things about the way one, they didn't establish that Isaiah Bradley was the first one.
The first?
Yeah. And secondly, when this is just me. When Captain America at the end of the first movie, he didn't say any racial slur when he saw Nick Fury. I'm like,
well, that's the thing.
But that goes back to what you said. That goes back to what you said. Like, he's the ideal, not what America is. He's what America wants to be. And
I think I get what you mean, but the character of Captain America would never have done that. A person, typically coming from the 1940s to that time, yes. Yeah. Well, to be fair, I don't really remember any black people in the first movie, but he would have.
Wait, there was like one black.
There's the guy in the Howling Commandos. Yeah.
Right. That's supposed to be Isaiah Bradley's father.
Could be. I can't remember.
Oh no! And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They established like oh man,
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, Derek Luke, right?
That is that's his grandfather, the guy who's in the fourth season.
Yeah.
Trip. I think his name is Trip. It's his grandfather that's there.
Okay, all right. It's not Isaiah. My bad.
I only know that because I binge watched all the Marvel TV shows, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was the first on the list.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is good. I don't understand why people gave it so much crap. Like,
because it started off really slow in 4. It started off really slow, and I was watching, like, okay, cool. oh, there's a black bald guy. It's gonna be Luke Cage. Oh, it's not Luke Cage. Okay, cool. All right.
It's Deathlock.
Yeah, and it's Deathlock. Like, all right, cool. And then I think season 3 is when, like, it's, to be fair, I think season 3 is where it should have finished.
Yeah.
Because everything kind of culminated there. But season 4 with Robbie Reyes, wonderful. Oof. The first half, anyway. Yeah. The second half kind of dropped down a little bit. Yeah. After that kind of 12 episodes, I was like, all right, cool, I'm done. Season 5, I was done as well. But overall, it's an enjoyable show with a good beginning, middle, and end. That's all you can really ask.
And I feel like with like they did all the work. They said, "Hey, we're connected to this show. We're connected to the Marvel movies." Like they didn't have to acknowledge. They did not need to say, "Hey, you don't need to put one of our people in one of your movies." Just we'll do that. We'll just say, "Oh, hey, we did this before this. We did this before that."
Yeah.
And but like Marvel was like, no.
Was interesting in how they did that. That was I like how they did incorporate stuff. It was nicely done, and I think that's throughout all of the Marvel TV shows. So like The Gifted and Runaways, how they incorporated, and Cloak and Dagger all talked about that world. The same with the Netflix verse does as well, without doing too much. It was enjoyable. But I would like, and that's what I'm enjoying with these now Marvel TV shows. Like they're actually really and truly a shared universe. Yeah. And I'm a fan of that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, we a little over, but we got. Hey, this is fun. Like, man, this is fun. Like I'm having fun. Okay. 14. Do you have anything you want to promote or anything?
No. I do TikTok.
That's pretty much it. Scary. Like, TikTok is very scary. Like
TikTok. Randoms. All right. On a brief one, my TikTok is DS Pyra or Blake King. You can search any of those. I've got a podcast called Nerds and Food Podcast. And I've got my own YouTube, which has pretty much been inactive for a year, but there's still a lot of content on there that people might want to consume. And the YouTube for that is also DS Pyra and the Nerds and Food Podcast as well. All linked into my TikTok and my Instagrams. So that's where they all are.
Right. 1407, we got the X-Men Timeline Explained coming out tomorrow. Like, oh man, like I just did the first team right before the second team.
Busy.
You would not believe how long they were together. Like
just like a couple 100 years.
No, from their standpoint, not from us. From the comic book standpoint, like 5 years.
Yeah.
Like
that's a golden time.
It's like Corona has been very good to me. Just like start studying like my dissertation. But all right.
Graduating full course.
Right. Thank you once again for I know that like we kept on kind of playing phone tag a little bit. It's but
anytime,
man. It's cool. Like I want to like come on back anytime.
For sure. No, you can always catch up off camera as well. Anytime, man.
Oh, cool. All right. This is 1407, Great Malkin Lane, signing out.
Peace.